Family, welcome back to another episode of Prolific Figures, influential conversation with influential Black USAFA alumni. My name is Tyler Jackson, and today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Rodney D. Bullard. Tell you a little bit about Mr. Bullard. Rodney is Vice President of Corporate Social Responsibility at Chick-fil-A, and he's also the Executive Director of the Chick-fil-A Foundation, where he leads the company's corporate community and philanthropic strategy, which is focused on fostering youth and furthering education. Prior to Chick-fil-A, Rodney served as an assistant United States attorney prosecuting complex criminal cases. For his service, the United States Attorney General presented him with one of the department's highest honors, the Director's Award. Prior to this role, Rodney was selected to the White House Fellow, the nation's most prestigious public service fellowship. As a White House Fellow, Rodney was placed at NASA, working directly for the NASA administrator. A decorated veteran, Rodney also served in the United States Air Force Judge Advocate General Corps, eventually working at the Pentagon as a congressional liaison of the Office of Secretary of the Air Force. Rodney is an alumni of the United States Air Force Academy class of '96, Duke University School of Law, the University of Georgia Terry School of Business, and Harvard Business School Advanced Management Program. Rodney currently serves on several national and local boards and has received a plethora of awards and accolades. He's a very decorated brother with a phenomenal leader. Prolific family, help me welcome Mr. Rodney Bullard. Rodney, how you doing this evening?
I'm well, brother. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for your leadership. It is an honor to be here.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have you here. This is a really highly requested interview we have on our hands right now. So I'm honored to be here to talk to you, and I know our audience is excited. So we're gonna go ahead and dive right into it. And on Prolific Figures, we like to start with our cookout questions, right? Because on this show, you are family. So just imagine, you're here at a cookout, comfortable questions. And we'll get right into it. Sorry, we got to start with this one, though. So you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, right?
Long suffering, brother. Long suffering.
You know what? I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, so I'm right there with you.
Yes, you understand.
Yeah, I do understand. I do understand. On that note, which one of these losses was harder to stomach for you? The 28-3 comeback from the New England Patriots?
Yeah.
Or the 40-39 loss you all took this past season to my team?
That's right. Kick. Because we didn't know the rules.
Hey, that's not our problem. We'll take the W.
Look here, the 28-3 is going to be hard, man. It's hard for me to see those numbers in sequence. I did not watch ESPN for 2 months.
Wow.
After the Falcons lost, and it always comes up. It never will go away for us until we win a Super Bowl, which is not likely anytime soon. So 28-3 is hard.
Yeah, I can remember everything going around in the world outside of football during that Super Bowl too. Yeah. I was definitely going for the Falcons. So I can say I suffered right there with you, brother.
Well, man, my family is from Dallas, as we were talking about earlier. So I used to get Dallas Cowboy Christmas ornaments, if you can believe that, when I was a kid.
Wow.
So I'm okay with the Cowboys as long as they're not playing my Falcons.
You know what? I appreciate you for that, because it's normal. If you're not a diehard Cowboy fan, you're normally a hater. I appreciate you at least giving props, at least giving respect.
No, look here, man.
I appreciate it. All right, so we'll go on to question number 2. So your father is a Baptist minister, correct?
Yes, he is.
So it's safe to say you grew up in the church, like we used to say, right?
Yes. I've been washed in the blood.
Okay, already. So here we go. I got one for you. What is one thing that if you see or experience this, you know for sure you are in a Southern Baptist church?
I know I'm in a Southern Baptist church when there's call and response. And so I even start my own speeches with call and response. And I say, good morning. And if they don't say good morning back, I'm like, good morning.
Yeah. Morning, Saints.
Yes, good morning, saints. And so God is good
Yeah, all the
all the
time.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the time, God is good. Yes.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it would either be tambourines. I haven't seen a
Right.
tambourine in the church in a really long time,
Yes.
or those women who sit in the front with those big hats.
Yes.
One of those two. One of those two.
Now, I have to ask you a question, man. Now, did your grandmother have those mints in her purse?
You know,
when you were sitting there?
my grandmother had balled up tissue, and
Yes.
she used to have the strawberry candies or the butterscotch candies.
There you go. Some sort of candy in the balled up tissue. Yes.
Yes,
Something about that old balled up tissue.
yes, perfect. Like it brings back memories. No, you
Yeah.
know, if you know, you know. Some people are
Yeah.
probably watching like, what are they talking about?
No.
If you know, you know. All right, so we're gonna go to our signature question. We ask this question to all of our guests. This time I'm gonna leave it broad, and I want you to just take it and answer it how you may. So here we go. What do you love the most about life while Black?
Mm. I love the opportunity to represent as a Black man, because we all carry this with us, and often it can be a burden for some, but for me, and I think for many of us, particularly if you went to the Air Force Academy,
Yeah.
you knew that you were representing. And when you went to your first base, you were representing. When I had my first trial, I was representing. And so we carry each other with us in our skin color, in our culture, in our walk, in our talk. And so I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. The ability to represent. That a lot of people would say that comes with a lot of pressure, but I look at it as a privilege.
Yep.
It truly is a privilege. So I appreciate that answer. I know our audience does as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna move into our focus quote.
Okay.
So this quote sort of leads as the focus point of the conversation that we're gonna have. You actually picked it, and
Yep.
it's a very beautiful quote. It actually comes from the Holy Bible, Proverbs 31:9.
Yes.
Yes, speak up for the poor and helpless, and see that they get justice.
Yes.
What does this
Yes.
quote mean to you? Why did you pick this?
It is, so many people know Proverbs 31 as how to find a good woman, how to find a good wife.
Right.
And that is true. That is one of the verses within the chapter of Proverbs 31. It was King Lemuel's mother who was giving him advice on how to be a good king. And so part of that was finding a good wife.
Right.
But also part of it was, how do you really govern and how do you lead? And she was very clear on, you lead by speaking up for those who can't speak for themselves. And you are in this position of privilege, this position of honor, and your role is not to self-aggrandize. Your role is to go out and help others and to uplift those who can't speak for themselves. And so, you know, throughout my career, that's something that has been ingrained in me from a Baptist minister father, an educator mother. Yeah. My work at Chick-fil-A is around that. And I want us to sell chicken. I do. I want you all to buy as much chicken as possible.
Yeah.
But I also want to use it so that we can help people and ensure that every child grows up to be everything they can be.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. You mentioned speaking for people who don't have a voice. Do you always count the cost of that? You know, whenever you're in various leadership positions, maybe those in your direct realm of influence may not agree with some of the things that you may speak up on. So do you always count the cost of giving a voice to those who don't have a voice?
Yes, I'm aware of the cost. I don't count the cost any longer. I'm aware of it though, and I feel it. You know, we just recently experienced a whole host of ills of 2020, but one of them, or several of them, were Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. And it was important to me that we did something about that corporately. Yeah. That we did something about that. And I know, look, that probably wasn't a universal thing. But there were enough that I could convince and enough who felt it was right that we did respond to it. Yeah. And I responded personally, we responded corporately, and that's important. And so we have this giving instrument called the True Inspiration Awards. It's a big event. It's a black tie event. We have celebrities who come in at the end of it. And we said for the next 2 years, it's going to be Black organizations getting this, going to the Black community. And we want to make sure that it's Black-led organizations, because many of the organizations are not. And that's not bad, not that they aren't doing good work, but we want to be intentional about what we do. We gave $1 million to the Russell Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which is helping Black entrepreneurs. Wow. And we help stand that up. We have given over $20 million to the west side of Atlanta for Black people to ensure that they have a place to live and that they are not pushed out by housing costs in Atlanta. And so that's important for us.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned something that we're going to talk about later, right? So these are all community service type of events, type of initiatives that you've actually impacted from your corporate seat. Yes. So that, that gap that not a lot of people talk about between the public and the private sector, both working together to uplift a race of oppressed people. We're definitely going to talk about that later. Thank you for your answer. That's powerful. So take a second and just sort of tell the audience about you, about yourself, about your story. How does somebody from the west side of Atlanta, right, west side of Atlanta, get to an executive seat in a Fortune 500 company?
Yeah, man. First and foremost, man, I was blessed with good parents who nurtured and loved me. And I went to school at a high school where they taught me to pride myself. And they taught me to stand tall and to walk in a way that wasn't prideful, but had pride in myself. And that was important. That nurture was important. And frankly, when I got to the Air Force Academy, I was behind academically initially. I hadn't had the course load. I hadn't had many of the courses, but I did have a belief in myself and I caught up. And so, there was this point in which around, the end of freshman year, I caught up and realized how to do things. But growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, growing up in the shadow of the civil rights movement, growing up with Ambassador Young, growing up with Ralph David Abernathy, growing up with the Atlanta University Center, Morehouse College, Spelman College, Clark Atlanta University, all that really was a part of my story. And it was a part and still is a part of who I am. And going off to the Air Force Academy was important to me because it was a leadership institution. And it was an opportunity to continue to learn about leadership and to focus on leadership and to play football. And what was interesting about my journey at the Air Force Academy is I went there to play football. I prayed to be an All-American, Tyler, but I think God must have misheard me because I was not an All-American in football. I was an All-American in mock trial.
Wow.
And so I went out for the mock trial team after I blew out my knee. And couldn't play football anymore, at least didn't want a red shirt and decided to go out for the mock trial team. I had done mock trial in high school. And so I just walked on and they looked at me and they looked at my size and they probably looked at my color and they said they didn't have room for me. And so I came back the next day and said, can I start my own team? And I brought people who looked like me, frankly, and we started a team and we ended up being number 1 on the West Coast and number 2 in the country. And Linnell Latendra, who is wonderful and a dear friend of mine, was also one of my teammates. She now is the dean, and so love Linnell, love everything that she represents. But we were all Americans. Linnell and I were all Americans together, and that was a blessing because it took me to law school and it took me to Duke for law school. And I enjoyed my time, and then it brought me back into the Air Force, where my first trial was on 9/11. And that just crystallized the importance of service and the why I was there. That it wasn't about me, that it was bigger than me. It was bigger than just the ability to go to the academy, to get some experience, to go to law school. It was really about our nation, and that we all were in this together. regardless of what we look like, regardless of where we come from, we were all in this together. And that was crystal clear on 9/11. Left there, and because of Will Gunn, who was a great brother and has mentored so many in my vintage, Will Gunn mentored me into the White House Fellowship. And I say that because it's so key, because what you are doing here is facilitating the opportunity for us to learn about one another. But now we got to learn about one another, and we also got to continue to support, mentor, and help one another. And so Colonel Gunn, Will did that for me. Was a White House fellow, and was blessed to help other brothers and sisters, Rod Lewis, get through the White House Fellowship after me.
Yeah.
And so then came back to Atlanta, Georgia. And so forgive me, my dogs think that everything outside is to be barked at.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a poodle in there.
You a smart man. I do have a poodle. I do. Let's rephrase that. My wife has a poodle.
Okay. Yeah, it's all good.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to get you off track there.
No, you're good.
It sounds like you have a submitted posture, and a solid devotion to your faith. Could you sort of speak to how your faith has played a role in your career path thus far, and in the successes that you have had?
Yeah, man. Look, I believe that God has ordained every step for me.
Yeah.
And even my missteps. And we talked about it earlier. My father's a Baptist minister. My father also played for the Denver Broncos, and so a big man with a big touch. And he taught me several things. One, he taught me to lean and trust on God, and then I could always come back to God, and I could always know that He was going to ordain my path. And two, he taught me that God was not a respecter of person. And so that's important, because it doesn't matter whether I'm, CEO or whether I'm attorney or whatever. I can't be a respecter of person one way or the other, whether I'm dealing with kings, queens, or I'm dealing with paupers and people on the street. They're all the same.
Yeah.
And the manner in which we approach them should be the same. And I think that's a matter of faith. And that's also an article of leadership, man.
Yes, sir. That's awesome. So sort of along that same line of just being submitted to your faith and that playing a pivotal role in your career. What else, maybe something tangible that has helped you navigate your career?
One of the things that really has helped me navigate my career is planning and goal setting. Yeah. And not just goal setting, but then articulating to the world that this is my goal. And sometimes people are afraid to do that. Sometimes we think that we have to work on it in secret. And if I say it out loud, then that will jinx it, or that will harm it, or somebody will judge me for it.
Yeah.
When I wanted to go to law school, I was stationed at Hanscom Air Force Base in outside of Boston. And if you got within 10 feet of me, you knew I wanted to go to law school. And I went to Duke and got largely a full ride because I told someone that I wanted to go to law school. That person said, oh, that's that guy, that's that lieutenant who wants to go to law school. Yeah. He then knew somebody at Duke Law, the dean of Duke Law. And I got almost a full ride because he helped me.
Wow.
He had to know me, and I had to tell him my goals to help me. When I wanted to write a book, I told everybody I was going to write a book. And I didn't have a sentence or a chapter written.
Yeah.
But people encouraged me. And then one day someone came up to me and said, hey, I heard you want to write a book. I have a publisher. Let me introduce you to this publisher. I think those things are important for us. If it's important for it to be a goal, it's important for you to allow the world and really allow God to come in and make a way for you.
Yeah.
So I've learned to do that.
Yeah, speak that. That is so good. I mean, I know we sort of talk about it just in my group of friends, holding each other accountable. I've never really thought about, actually putting that out into the world, speaking it, you know what I mean? I do think there's power in that. And, you and I had a conversation before we got on just
Yeah.
about, you know what I mean? Being transparent about what you want to do. You never know who you may run into. You never know who may need to hear what you're trying to do. And you never know who you could be able to bless.
That's right.
I think that's so important. Thank you for saying that on this public platform. Like, that is awesome.
Yeah, man. Let the world and let God,
Yeah.
respond to your dreams and to your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. That's good. Speaking of book, this right here is an awesome book.
Thank you, bro.
And I sort of want to touch on one of the main topics with a little twist, right? In this book, you talk about impacting the 3 feet around you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We all talk about we want to change the world. You change the world by starting with the 3 feet around you. How do you go about impacting the 3 feet around you as a minority in a predominantly majority occupied space?
Yeah. I talk about the 3 feet around me and the 3 feet around us in this sense of a friend of mine by the name of Dr. Gregory Ellison. He is a professor here in Atlanta at the Emory School of Theology, the Candler School. And he said that when he was 6 years old, he had an aunt Dot, and he would ask Aunt Dot hard questions. And one day he asked her, "How do you change the world?" And she said, "I don't know how you change the world, Greg, but I do know you can impact the 3 feet around you. You can impact that which you see and the problems that are right in front of you." Because oftentimes we have to go, or we think we have to go far away to impact problems, but there are problems right in front of us. Yeah. And so to answer your question, how do I do that, particularly with the lens of identity, is I am aware, and probably even more keenly aware, of those issues within my purview, within my 3 feet, that affect people that look like me, that affect people that look like us, that, and they may not be issues. It may be someone who has come to work alongside me. It may be a young person who is there that I have an opportunity to mentor or speak into. I'm most proud of a program that we started at Chick-fil-A called Chick-fil-A Fellows Program, and it's for graduates of Morehouse College. And we allow them to come and they follow us for a year to 2, and then they get $25,000 to grad school of their choice. And, that cohort of students, I love them dearly. And they have been within my 3 feet, and they continue to be within my 3 feet. So I'm keenly aware of that. I talked about Will Gunn. Will Gunn was aware of brothers and sisters, particularly when they came in the JAG. We were within his 3 feet.
Yeah.
And he took good care of us.
Yeah, that is awesome. Golly. I'm sitting here processing because, I asked you earlier about some of the some of the efforts in bridging, that gap between the public and the private sector, right? So when you talk about all of the things that you mentioned earlier that Chick-fil-A actually helps with, giving funds and helping people solicit funds or whatever the case may be, and then you bring up the program that you all have with Morehouse College. I mean, I'm in awe. I did not know Chick-fil-A was in the trenches for us like that. Yeah. And I know a lot of our audience didn't know either. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful thing.
It is, man. And it's important because we're in the trenches because individuals wanted to be in the trenches. And I'm one of them, not the only one. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, our CEO, Dan Cathy, has through our relationship, he's gained an appreciation of, I need to be doing something for people of color. And I need to be offering my resources. And so I have used that, and we have been intentional about that.
Yeah. So kind of staying on this topic, there is this complex that I found myself having a lot of conversations with a lot of members of our audience. And it's about, we all have, for the most part, we all have a desire to give back. We all have a desire to make an impact to our community, to, to uplift a group of marginalized and oppressed people, right? Yes. And I think the common thing is to do it in the public sector, which is absolutely amazing. I have an MPA myself. I absolutely love public service.
Right.
But then I hear your testimony and I hear what you're able to do from the corporate side, still doing the same types of things at arguably a bigger scale. Could you sort of speak to the necessity of both the public and private sector in order to do the work of the community? And also, what advice would you give someone who's sort of straddling the line? Like, yes, I absolutely want to serve my community. That's where my heart is. I also have the opportunity to increase my wealth, power, and prestige
Yes.
by going this way in order
Yes.
to help the community. Could you sort of speak to that? I know that was a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but it is the issue of the day.
Mm,
It's actually the issue on my heart right now, frankly.
wow.
It's the crossroads that I'm at right now, frankly.
Mm,
So I'll start off by saying this. One of my dearest professors, brother at Duke Law, told me, he said, Rodney, you have an interest in doing good, but I don't ever want you to forget that you can do good while doing well.
wow.
And he said that it is nothing wrong with doing well. In fact, as you do well, you will be able to do more good. And I never forgot that. And then I looked out and I saw many of us in public service. We were helping others, but we were struggling in our own personal lives, struggling financially, struggling with time, struggling with all sorts of health issues, and doing good was killing us. We weren't doing well. We weren't building wealth. And I look out now in a city like Atlanta, where we have Black politicians, but we still don't own as much of the city as you would think we do. We have a good measure of Black wealth, but we don't have nearly the wealth of our compatriots, period. And that makes a difference. And so when you look at a neighborhood like the West Side, hundreds of millions of dollars have gone in, but it has been at the hands of corporations or largely white philanthropic efforts. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't decry that. And I've said this a lot in public, but we have to get to the point where we also have the wherewithal financially to support those neighborhoods too. Otherwise, we can't dictate the future of those neighborhoods. Wow. It's difficult. So it is important, man. And so that's not to say that public service is not important, because I said I'm at that crossroads personally. Yeah. I think, and another mentor of mine said, he said the best careers are in and out of government, and that you find this mix of public service and private service. Yeah. And that your professional career, that they mix and they do well together. Yeah. A mentor of mine was number 2 at Department of Justice, and then he left there to be general counsel of Pepsi. Wow. And so, those things do accrete to one another.
Yeah. Wow. That we could cut the interview right there. I mean, that was great. I think a lot of revelation is going to come from your sentiments on that question. Thank you. So I mentioned power a little bit, and earlier we talked about leadership, right? So what I want to ask you is about this dynamic or this relationship between power and leadership. Are they one and the same? What differentiates them? Are they intertwined? Could you sort of with your experience, could you give your input on power and leadership?
Yes. Power can be exercised without leadership. So you can have power and you can move and influence and push people and situations, but not do so in a way that is exercising leadership. And we've all been in those situations. We've all felt that. In fact, that was part and parcel of the education we got at the Air Force Academy, that we were going to be in situations where people used their power over us, but we knew it wasn't leadership. And I remembered those situations. Frankly, I remember those people. and I endeavored to, when I was in a leadership position, a position of power, that I was going to lead and not just merely lord over people.
Yeah.
And I think leading is about how do you take care of people. Leading is about compassion and empathy. And leading is about, yes, solving a hard problem, but how do we do that in a way that we're all whole when we solve the problem?
Yeah.
That we're better because we solve the problem, not just we merely solve the problem for academic or egotistical reasons.
Right.
And so that is very different to me, leadership and power.
Yeah. Do you think a great leader can yield power?
Absolutely. A great leader should have power, but a great leader has power that has evolved into influence. See, when I have influence, I don't have to exercise my power.
Yeah.
You do it because you respect me. You do it because you don't want to let me down. You do it because you know the right thing to do. It's now ingrained within the cultural relationship and the fabric of leadership and followership. That's where you want to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's good. That's good, Rodney. That is awesome. So kind of want to take a left turn here or a right turn. I think good turn that we're going to take.
Good turn.
Right? Good turn. Good turn, right? So just on your career thus far, you've done a lot of things. I mean, you went to Duke Law School. You went to the United States Air Force Academy.
That's right.
That is right. MBA, White House Fellow. You've done a lot of prestigious things in your career, and you've had a lot of success, right? So I kind of want to ask you, what frustrations and insecurities did you have as a young Black man that you hope your successes, right, and your testimony and your discipline could prevent your son from experiencing those same insecurities and struggles?
Absolutely right. And for your audience, I have a 13-year-old son, and I think about that mightily. And I want him to know that he's more than enough. Oftentimes we strive to achieve. And even though we've achieved, we still don't feel like we're more than enough. We still don't feel like we belong in this room, in this place, in this space. And we feel like we got to achieve even more. And I want him to know that he's more than enough. I want him to know, because once he feels like he's more than enough, then he can do anything. Yeah. He can go off and do anything. I see that particularly in my white counterparts, that they don't feel like they have to have all of these accolades. They just go out and do it. I can start a business. Yeah, I can start a business. We'll say, well, you know what? I need to save this much money. I need to do this. And none of that is wrong. It's wise. Or we'll say, well, when I get here, when I do this, then I can do that. Yeah. They say, I'm more than enough. I'm going to go do it. Wow. And I think that confidence, that quiet security is what we all have to have. Yeah. And frankly, our culture doesn't possess it, because it's been over many years. Right. It has been something that we've struggled with. Yeah. Quite frankly. Yeah. No, that is good. I was sort of having this conversation with some friends earlier. That's definitely something I want to pass down to my kids as well. And I think in addition to that, the confidence and the freedom really to really, pursue whatever it is that you want to pursue, not because of the monetary gain, because you actually love it. You know what I mean? Right. And I think, I personally think a lot of times with our white counterparts, most of the time they have backing of, resources and connections and things of that nature as well. That sort of, you know what I mean, helps with that confidence that I really strive to want to provide for my kids as well. And I know definitely you definitely would provide that, not just to your son though, right. but to your 3 feet. That's right. The sons of sons, man, without question. But I'll say this, we have more. I'm gonna put us on pause for 1 second and take this dog out, man. Hold on 1 second, brother. Yep, no worries.
No worries. All right, guys, we're back. Had a little technical difficulties. He had to put one of his Dalmatians up, but
I promise you, I did not kill the dog. So for those of you all who love dogs, I did not kill the dog.
Yeah, it's all well. It's all good. So we got a couple more questions for you. Then we're gonna let you go here. Number one, so we're here on Prolific Figures, and when I say we, the Way of Life Alumni Group, really strive to build community. We really strive to bridge those generational gaps of Black USAFA alumni, and the buzzword there is networking. So what is your view on networking? Not just your view, but where do you think we can improve, and what is the value of networking?
Yeah. You know, one, I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate this podcast and this show because networking and just relationship. And so networking has a bad connotation for some people, not for me, but for some people it does. But relationships, we can't have enough relationship. We can't have enough support and love for one another. We can't have enough awareness of one another because with awareness comes the opportunity for support. And, you know, as an academy, the Air Force Academy, regardless of race or culture, we don't do a great job with that. And we need to do a better job with that. And particularly as Black grads of the Air Force Academy, we have to be keenly aware of one another. And how can we support one another? And how can we cheer one another on? And so we have a similar experience, a similar bond. And so we should tread upon that. And so I'm very pleased for this opportunity because of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if I may give a shameless plug to what I think is a prime opportunity to capitalize on networking is our upcoming Charles Busch conference,
Yes.
which will be in 2022. So please reach out, everybody under the sound of my voice, reach out to the Way of Life Alumni Group and get some information on the Charles Busch conference. It will be a Black USAFA homecoming. And we know what happens at homecomings. Life happens, love happens, networking happens, relationships are built, and it'll be a phenomenal time. So Chuck Busch conference, shameless plug, reach out to Way of Life for that.
That's right.
Yes, sir. So one last thing I want to ask you, what is something in your career that you're looking forward to next?
You know, I'm looking forward to a host of things next. I'm looking forward to just the next chapter of service and leadership and figuring that out and seeing what God has in store. Mm-hmm. I'm writing a book with that in mind. And so my second book is called Bridges Needed.
Okay.
And it encompasses a few things. One, this macro sense of we need to get beyond the divisiveness in our country. And we need to get to understanding that we all, one, are Americans, we all too are human, and that we have more in common than we have apart. But we also have to be bridges, physical and emotional bridges for one another.
Yeah.
And so going back to this whole thought of networking and relationship, we have the opportunity to bridge and stand in the gap for one another. Yeah. And so I'm excited about this book that I hope to release in 2022. Okay. And I'm excited about the next opportunity to lead.
That's awesome. All right. Talking about a book, that sort of goes into our last two signature questions. Right. Unfortunately, you can't recommend that book yet, but could you recommend one book to our listeners?
Yes, I can. So Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi.
Never Eat Alone.
Never Eat Alone. And it's a very simple concept. We all have to eat. And so we should use that time to be in fellowship with someone else. So we should use that time to network. We should use that time to reach out and just call up somebody that you haven't met. Call up somebody that you want to know and say, hey, I'm going to take you to lunch. I'm going to take you to dinner. I'm going to take you to breakfast. Yeah. And use the time of eating and don't do it alone.
Yeah. Simple but profound.
Simple but profound.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So our last and final question for you. Bear in mind that you have the audience of every Black USAFA alumni, and the cadets, the parents, everybody of our channel, what is one piece of advice or one final word that you want to leave everybody with?
We truly are part of the long blue line, but we also have our own long black line within that long blue line.
Yeah.
And so as I started this, we all get the opportunity to represent, and we represent one another every day.
Yeah.
And so continue to do that proudly, continue to do that intentionally, and continue to do that collaboratively. One of the things that I will leave you with is this, that I will take collaboration over competition any day of the week.
Wow. Wow. That is awesome.
So I appreciate you, man. It's an honor to collaborate with you on this.
Yeah.
And keep leading, brother.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Rodney Bullard. Thank you for joining our channel. And where can our audience find you? Do you have a website of anything?
I do. You can find me on Instagram, Rodney.Bullard.
Okay.
You can find me on Twitter, Rodney.Bullard. I will be back up Heroes Wanted book shortly, and Bridges Needed book shortly as well. But right now, just find me on my Instagram, find me on my Twitter, and
Okay.
and I look forward to being in touch with folks. And please, LinkedIn as well. I'm a prolific user of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Trying to get as many people as LinkedIn will allow me on there. I'm trying to test the limits and the boundaries.
Yeah.
So find me on LinkedIn, connect with me, Rodney Bullard, LinkedIn.
Awesome. Awesome. Mr. Bullard, thank you for your time. And on behalf of the Way of Life Alumni Group, we appreciate you. And you have a good evening, sir.
You as well, man. Be blessed.
Yes, sir. I'm going to actually stop this recording. Cool.